And can you sort of introduce what your role is at MIPS?
Today, I'm head of implementation team. That's the team that actually work with the customers.
Mm-hmm.
At MIPS, in here in the headquarters at Stockholm, we are roughly 80 people. We're a
Wow.
highly engineering-based company. I think somewhere 45 plus of the staff is engineers of some degree.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the way from PhDs in science, biomechanics at the science team, which is the ones that look at standards, how work with FE modeling, finite element, kind of building stuff in the computer, crashing it instead of doing it in the real world, trying
Yeah.
to analyze how things works. Uh, to the product development team that actually create new product, work with overall design language and to my team, which are the ones that work with the client. Since we are an ingredient brand,
Mm-hmm.
we work with more than 150 client brands throughout the world. So I have a team of 25 people roughly,
Wow.
project managers and engineers that um, talk to customers, do CAD work, talk to the factories, and then we get samples. So every helmet model and every helmet size has been tested here at our test lab at MIPS before it's being approved with the design before and goes into production. So that's the role of my team.
I mean, looking at the website, I think gives you some like indication of what the product or the technology is. How do you overall explain it? Like, as you said, it's an ingredient, right? So then it can fit into, is it for any kind of head protection? How do you conceptualize that ingredient as a product?
Um, basically, in theory, for any helmet, we like to make a difference. So we make sure we do a lot of scientific work to make sure that our ingredient or our product makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
We do a lot of science-based investigations before we move to any new sport or so to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that it really makes a difference. So we've had examples where we can't see that our product actually makes a difference in some sport or so, and then we're like, okay, we're not gonna go that direction. But and also, we have some requirements. I mean, you have to have a chin strap on the helmet, for example. The helmet has to be certified within those parameters, so to say. It could fit into pretty much any helmet. And then we
Mm-hmm.
have a portfolio of 10 different concepts that pretty much do the same thing, or actually, they do the exact same thing. But given what type of helmet it is, if it's like an open, highly ventilated road racing helmet, there needs to be a little bit of a different structural to the part, since it needs to be able to move inside, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. What we like to do is have if this is the head and this is the helmet,
Mm-hmm.
we would like to decouple the helmet from the head. So during an impact, the helmet can move freely, slightly, 10 to 15 millimeters, um, to minimize the energies from rotational forces that might be transferred to your brain and cause brain trauma.
Can you speak a little bit about, like you said, there's 10 different sort of variations?
I mean, most people when they if they know something about us and they have had a helmet or seen a helmet, they've seen the yellow inner part that is inside of the helmet, which is kind of the classic MIPS solution. Uh, these days, it's called Essential or Evolve in the MIPS families that's on the market.
Mhm.
It's a basic or basic. It's a PC polycarbonate inner layer that can move relative to the helmet.
Mhm.
That's like where we started back in 2013, 2014, or something like that. Uh, Nowadays, if you have back again to road cycling, if you have one of those little bit newer helmets, they might have a iron out solution, or air solution, and that's where we have the low friction layer, which is our product. You need to have a low friction in order to be able to move the helmet relative to the head during the short amount of time which an impacts occur during, and the high load that happens during that impact as well. So the low friction layer is integrated in the padding. So there are a number of different helmet brands out there that have this technology.
But so if
Oh,
I
it's
were
hard
to
to tell.
like strip back this padding, then I would be able to see like that, or I don't know, or maybe I can actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you remove the padding, you could see the low friction layer. Sometimes it's yellow, sometimes it's black. So, but it's
Yeah.
definitely like a bit of shiny, and in most cases you can move it with your thumb a little bit
Yeah.
back and forth.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I don't know if we can.
Yeah.
Let me
Okay.
see it in there. It's
Yep.
a little lighting is shitty. Okay, so
Yep.
that's the MIPS layer, and in this case, it's like a single piece of MIPS, right?
Yep. Yep. Attached with like 4 elastomers in rubber or silicone or so.
And so the idea is that because this layer exists, it creates a separation between my head, my skull, and the helmet.
Exactly. So your head will be moving along with the PC, but the PC will be separated or can move towards the outer shell, so to say. So it's actually mimicking exactly what's inside your head. So the skull, you have the skull, and then you have the cerebrospinal fluid, which your head is kind of floating around. So if I move my head like this, back and forth, my brain will actually move roughly 20 millimeters inside of my skull. So then, I mean, the MIPS layer is just like another layer of cerebrospinal fluid, and then the actual helmet, the EPS, the energy absorbing part, is just like your skull bone, but just another
Yeah.
layer. So it's
Okay.
mimicking evolution.
And then, like in this case, I have this like newer spherical helmet.
Yeah.
And now that's where I feel like it gets a little bit harder to understand which
Complicated.
component. Yeah, because like to me,
It's divided.
yes. So we have like this. That's like MIPS, right?
Yep.
And then is this part also MIPS?
No. So it's I shouldn't say only, but it's only the separation between the inner and the outer part. So
Yeah.
if you move it slightly to the side and you look at the outside, or like, how should I say, the outer side of the inner part. So if you turn the
Yeah.
helmet on the other side and you twist a little bit, you see the silvery part. Do you see that silvery
Oh.
part? The silvery
No.
part is it's covered with a PC layer, so it's the
Yeah.
same thing that's inside of your snow helmet, but the difference is it's molded in between.
Yeah.
So it's the same technology, but it's moved so it's invisible or almost invisible.
Yeah. So
And
now I can see like the little yellow. I
exactly,
don't
you
know.
see them as well.
Is
Yeah, that's
I
my
don't know.
next thing.
There.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. So it's the same elastomers that you have inside of your snow helmets, but just here you have them between the
Okay.
energy absorbing layers, and you have 2 energy absorbing layers instead of one thicker one in this snow helmet.
Huh. Okay. And that would probably then that's the same or a similar thing. This is another version of like that same idea. So is
Yep.
spherical one of those like 10 MIPS?
Exactly. So
Okay.
that's part of the. Nowadays we have 5 families, 4 within sports and 1 within safety construction. Up until a couple of years ago, we only said that was MIPS,
Yeah.
and we were pretty strict on just calling it MIPS and not realizing that there needs to be a diversification within the different versions. And as we grew with new concepts and so, we actually added the family part to it. So the Air system is the 4th. So Air the Integra family, Essential, and Evolve. Those are the 4 different ones.
Yeah,
these
I
days.
think that helps to like this idea of having different versions or families of
Yeah,
MIPS helps to clarify it, because I think we now start looking for helmets and everyone says, okay, it needs to have MIPS. And then, yeah, we have this like yellow sticker here, but I'm curious, like, what is that actual MIPS
yeah,
element in there? So in this case, we see that it's moving, but then it's not this part. But then in some helmets, it might just look like, obviously
yeah,
not in this one, but it might
yeah,
look like what we see here, like that
yeah,
little internet or whatever you want to
yeah,
call it.
exactly.
But you wouldn't have a case where you have two, like every helmet would only have one kind of integration of that, right?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, because it's still only the one with the least resistance that will move or be in use during an impact. So having two is not that you get the double or something like that.
Yeah.
You will only get the yeah, the one with the least resistance, so to say, to will be the one will be in action during an impact.
You talked about doing a lot of, what's the right word, like the simulations on computers
Hmm.
as a starting point. And then, like, can you talk about that trajectory of going from computer simulation? Is there a way to test this in real life? And how do you do that? And what are the results that you've been seeing?
Yeah, so I mean, like I started out saying, MIPS is a science-based company, so it was started by a neurosurgeon who was a little bit annoyed why he got so many patients on his surgeon table that had brain injuries, even though they've used helmets. So he started to wonder why that was, and came to the conclusion that helmets, as of today, when they are certified, they are tested so that you should not get skull fracture, but doesn't really aren't tested for brain injuries, so to say. So he started looking for that, and got together with a biomechanic PhD student, and they started the company basically. And finding this simple way of decoupling the head from the helmet, so to say, mimicking evolution, just I told you earlier, and having the possibility to look into FE and the finite element analysis. They started in creating a brain model. So at the Royal Institute of Technology, or together with them, we have the unique possibility to use this brain model. It's a bit more than 25 man years put into that model, and it's one of the most highly validated models in the world. And the way you do that is that I'm not sure how to put this, but you have the possibility to have, for example, footage of an accident, and you have
Yep.
that from multiple views. And if you have that from multiple views, you could calculate what happens and the speeds and angles that the accident happens. So you can take that information and put that into a simulation of the accident and predict what the outcome would be. And then you take the actual patient or the trauma from the person that was involved in the accident, and you look at the CT scans from that person and see how do they compare. So the computer model would predict that you would have some trauma here and you will have a bleeding here, and the CT scans, well, they say that you have a trauma here and you have a bleeding in this part of the brain. So by doing that, the model has been validated, and it's like from the events that have been investigated, we can see that's a close relation in how what the model predicts and what happens in real life. So that's how you validate the brain model, and then you can use it in external in testing, experimental testing. So what we do is, whenever we work with a brand, a client, we get CAD files from them on how the helmet design is, depending on what type of helmet it is, how the geometry looks, what the volume is that it will be produced in, and a couple of other parameters. One of our 10 different concepts is selected and presented to customers. They're like, we propose this one. What do you think? It's like, oh, sounds good. Let's go with that. So my team, they start doing CAD work, make some modifications to fit the elastomers, the yellow rubber fixations that you saw on the helmet. We need to have those in there. Propose that together with the first design outline to the customer and say like, hey, we think something like this, would that fit with your design language and inside of the helmet? Hopefully they'll be like, oh, sounds good. It will, of course, be a couple of iterations with that. But once we're happy, we send the CAD files to the factory. The factory is most often, these days at least, based in China. So MIPS has a fully owned daughter company in China with 25 people working, mostly with quality control, quality assurance, and with the factories teaching them on how to do the assembly and stuff like that. So we send them the drawings, the CAD files. They take them to the factory, show the factory how it's supposed to be assembled and put together. The factory make some tooling to do the parts, do some assembly, produce a couple of helmets, send the helmets to Stockholm. Or first, of course, we do some quality assurance that it looks like we expected it to be, but then they send it to Stockholm, and the same engineer that did the CAD work gets to inspect it and then test it in our test lab. So we have a test lab here at Stockholm, which is one of the most advanced in the world when it comes to helmet testing. And then test the helmet. So we test every helmet size and every helmet model in 4 different impact locations. We test it with MIPS and without MIPS to compare how our system improves the helmet as such. So every helmet is tested. We test it towards a 45-degree angle because we've seen that 45-degree angle mimics what happens when you fall at an angle towards the ground. So we have a 45-degree angle, and then we release the helmets so they come bouncing like this. So we tested in a frontal impact, a lateral impact, something that we call pitched, which is like head on, boom, and then in a rear impact as well. So 4 different impact locations for every helmet model, every helmet size. And as soon as they have been tested, we launch simulations on our servers. They compute something that we call strain to the brain, and that's the tearing of the brain tissue, and that's what we look at in this FE model. And we compare the brain, the strain to the brain in the helmet without MIPS and the one with MIPS. And if we see a significant improvement or large enough for our internal threshold, we say thumbs up. Here's an approval report, dear customer, and now you can start producing and go to market with it.
Like, I appreciate you taking time to speak to the meaningfulness of what this yellow sticker is and what it looks like. I know we've always had kind of not arguments, but like heated discussions of like, no, this is MIPS, or no, this is MIPS. So now it's good to have a little bit of clarity. And I think if people are curious, then they can be encouraged to kind of take a little bit of time with their own helmets and kind of look at where it might be hidden, as I did now.
Try to find it.
Yeah, pulling out the padding, or just going a little bit deeper into that. I feel quite enlightened. So thank you for taking the time.